today's rant, you might think you're being humped by your local government or school board or some former politician who believes that masks are the only way to deal with COVID. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rant Network. I'm David Solomon. He is my partner, Stuart Brisgell, and we are bringing you the Rant Network, an uncensored, unfiltered, live conversations every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on a wide range of topics. This podcast is dedicated to giving you the platform to express your opinion, share your thoughts, experiences, and ideas, and hear from a variety of perspectives and honest opinions. Join us as we dive into the latest news, pop culture, politics, and the stupidity of modern life, as we're about to get into, and including deeper, issues that affect society. Folks, we got you covered. Sit back, relax, enjoy today's episode of the Rant Network. Stuart, last night I was watching a bit of the news. I was at actually a political event here in Canada, and one of the conversations that came up is, well, COVID is starting to kind of creep back up a little bit. And the people at the front of the room were saying, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we need to treat COVID just like we treat influenza, the flu, and other things. It's one of those things that are here to stay. And we got to be smart about it because of the damage we've caused for 2 years to our kids, to our seniors, to people, you name it. But Stuart, it seems that Maryland School Board thinks that they know best what to do for grade 3 students. What's going on there, Stuart, in your country with COVID?
Well, globally, there's an issue, right? COVID is like influenza showing its scary little head again, or is it politically correct to show its scary little head? Now, you have people like First Lady Jill Biden, who's now tested positive, who's hunkering down, right, to keep safe. And so as we start to get further into the political season, we start seeing other maneuvers by the media because they would love another lockdown. I mean, it's just the only way that President Biden can avoid the campaign trail. I believe that, COVID's a very serious disease, right? It comes, it goes, and it will come and go for eternity. Our children's children will know of COVID. But they're now talking about a new booster shot expected up as next week. Pharmaceutical companies making billions of dollars off of this, by the way, without any recourse. And you're starting to hear now side effects from the initial boosters, which of course are being muted in the news because they're saying there's not substantial enough information or conclusive to put forward. But you hear of people with kidney problems, congenital heart problems, clotting problems, which may or may not be a result of your normal health issues. But, perfectly healthy people starting to have issues that they never had before kind of sounds a little stinky. And so now you have even further with the left agenda, where the most unpopular mayor in America, Lori Lightfoot, hailing from Chicago, is going to start lecturing at one of the most left-wing colleges in the world, Harvard. And her main topic is going to be pandemic and media. Right? That's what she's going to be talking about. Now, if you think about it for just a second, Lori Lightfoot is the most duplicit mayor that has caused more carnage with defunding the police because of her fight against the harm that came to her brother, convicted felon, right? But it doesn't stop there because how else is the left going to stop the debate? Because no one wants a debate anymore. Because if they get a debate, Joe Biden's cooked. He won't have his cue cards. He won't have his earphone. They're going to rip him to shreds on a podium. So how else are we going to not have an easy election, right? It's my best opinion that this is the only reason why the war against COVID, which was declared over by President Biden, is going to be brought up again.
Now,
I don't know, David.
Stuart, I'll give you. I'm going to give you a little bit of a different train of thought than that way.
Sure.
And I'll start.
Maryland?
I'll first of all start with the Maryland School Board that has decided that there are a bunch of kids with COVID in there, and so as a result, they're forcing all the students to come to class with an N95 mask, and they're saying it's a 10-day masking. Now, there are a couple things I want to point out to you folks. Notice that they said N95 and not the schmutta masks that we were all told to wear by Anthony Fauci for 2 years. Dr. Fauci, you know, even to this day, when he was interviewed on CNN, after being the head of infectious diseases for God knows how many presidents, continues to flip flop. He's played the role of the politician perfectly, prospered very nicely during the COVID, and suddenly, he's interviewed on CNN, and he doesn't say that masks work, but he doesn't say masks don't work. He doesn't say that masks are essential. He just hopes that people are prudent. But it's interesting that the only thing they focused on was masks. Not washing your hands, not keeping distance, just a mask.
And not common sense.
And not common sense. And the funny thing about all that is keeping distance and washing the hands is not something the government can control. The government can control masking. School boards can control masking. This is the way now. You talked about the Democratic Party with their desire to keep Joe Biden in his basement in Delaware. I would argue that this has got more to do with the craving power that these politicians enjoyed during COVID. Now, you're going to say, who enjoyed COVID? How dare you? Listen, they had emergency power. They suspended the rule of law so that they could tell you how you are going to be. Just think about it. You are mandated to wear masks. You are mandated to get vaccines. You are mandated to stay at home. You are mandated. They loved this power. So COVID to these megalomaniacs is the best because now they can reassume power. Now, this Maryland School Board is ignoring studies that showed that kids during the pandemic, their education level suffered significantly. Their psychological status suffered significantly. Kids with learning disabilities or challenges, whatever you want to call it, from ADD to autism to you name it, suffered worse because the masks covered their face. For kids with autism, it was a sensory deprivation that was very, very difficult for them. Kids with ADD couldn't focus. None of that matters. We are going to force students for 10 days to wear masks. If these kids had the cold or the flu, Stuart, they would tell them to stay home.
Well, that's something, David, but you just said something which I was hoping you would come into. I can only tell you about Miami County School Board, right? The kids come to work sick. They're not sent home.
Mm-hmm.
The big issue is if you're sick, stay home. No one wants your friggin' cold, your virus, your COVID. But you want to know something? That's where the stupidity and hypocrisy begins. And if people don't understand that, then it's all out the window. But you know what? Most of the workforce, I think it was 78% is paycheck to paycheck in America and Canada. And they can't afford to take the day off of work. A teacher's salary is today at par with a McDonald's manager, right? The people that feed you fast food and the people that educate your children get paid about the same amount of money. It's disgusting. And they're not given extra time off when they're sick. Their kids are coming in sneezing, coughing, right? But that's okay. Maryland, you're a donkey. You're an idiot in the wheel. And you know what? Your governor should put his foot down now because the insanity needs to start from the top. If you allow people to mask mandate, maybe the first line of defense is if you're sick, stay home. And the argument then comes from these morons is, I had no symptoms. Well, then you know what? It's going to spread that way too. But the guy that gets a symptom goes and spends it home.
But
eventually
Stuart,
the guy that was non-showing eventually will burn it out as well.
Stuart, what's fascinating is that when you go to Japan and you go to South Korea, the mindset there, it's a cultural mindset. Don't get your neighbor sick. So if they don't feel well, they mask up, they distance themselves, they wash their hands, they continue to live. Okay? It's not about staying at home, but they understand the notion of don't make your neighbor sick. That's the culture. In North America, we sneeze on each other. You know, everybody says, oh, sneeze into your elbow. That's cute, but you cough, you sneeze, you don't pay attention necessarily. We don't think of our neighbor. So what we do is we tell everybody we're going to punish you with these oppressive, and I'm calling it oppressive measures because I don't know if, a child, listen, there's major humidity outside here. Okay. It's brutally hot. We're at over 100 degrees here for the next few days, Stuart.
Wow.
Students don't have air conditioning in a lot of schools. Now imagine telling them to put on a mask. Like, it's just, we're not thinking it through. What we're doing is we're showing everybody we care. That's what this Maryland school board is trying to teach. And by the way, Democrats have said, oh, no, we are not going to force a mandate. And J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, wants to put legislation out and wants bipartisan cooperation that we are not going to do a federal mandate again. No more federal masking, no more federal vaccinations, none of this stuff. Because the science, they said to us, follow the science. Well, the science is inconclusive. You said it, other studies have showed it, and until it's conclusive, don't do this. But the Maryland School Board telling grade 3 students who, don't forget, when they were in nursery, kindergarten, and grade 1, somewhere in there, suffered by staying home, going to school masked, and they're struggling in school, and they're now being told again at the beginning of the school year for 10 days, wear a mask. It's obscene what we're doing to our kids, and the harm is irreparable. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I don't know that school boards should have that power. Frankly, I think it's wrong. And I don't know
I think
where the
school
parents are.
boards should do the smart thing. You're sick, stay home. Your kid throws up in class, send them home. Why are you leaving a kid? Why are you sending a kid? Yes, my kid threw up at home, but I thought it was over. And the kid comes up and throws up all over the classroom. I mean, listen, parents are the first problem and where the solution lies. And if parents are stupid and are selfish because they don't want to miss a day's work, they don't want to stay home
It's
to
not
take
about
care of
selfish.
kids,
That's not
send them
selfish.
off to
No, I don't agree
school.
that that's
And you know who
selfish.
suffers, David? David, the guys that suffer are the public school kids. They
But
suffer the most.
Stuart, unfortunately, you said something before, and my wife's a teacher. My mother was a teacher. Listen, the kids have to come. Look, the parents can't find a babysitter. They don't have the grandparent. They don't have a caregiver. They don't have anybody. And they send the kid to school. And I understand why they would do that. Then you know something? I understand to put a mask on that kid, maybe to put that kid somewhere in a different part of the classroom. I get all that. And I understand. And we need to be very aware in today's day and age about it. But to mandate every kid in grade 3 to do it, I think that's dangerous. And I think the precedent is frightening. Stuart, last
David,
word from you.
last word is, remember it was said here, Biden is trying to hide in his basement.
Oh, okay.
And he's going to use COVID as a reason to hide. He does
All
not want to debate anyone.
All right.
And I promise you, this is where this is going.
All right, folks. That's it for today's episode because Stuart is going to be joining Joe Biden in his basement. Tune in next time. On Friday, we'll be back for the Rant Network. I hope you enjoyed this and gained some valuable insights. Thank you for all of your support and hope you got something out of this thought-provoking conversation. Catch us again, like we said, live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. If you didn't see us live, you probably downloaded us. You checked us out on Facebook. You checked us out on a podcast. Thank you. Share it. Love it. We really appreciate it. Unlike other media in Canada, we are able to still be on live. I'll explain that another time. In the meantime, looking forward to catching you on Friday. Stuart, wish everybody goodbye.
I wish everyone a very nice